Okay, so hello, good evening to everyone, and welcome to Saliksik's fourth Saliksikat webinar series. If you have been following us for the past few months, you may already know that this webinar series is where Saliksik features researchers from various fields to talk about and familiarize us with their lives as researchers and the goings on in the research community and the country. Okay, so first and foremost, this webinar is brought to you by the amazing team Saliksik. Saliksik is the Philippines' first crowdsourcing platform for Filipino research. The team aims to promote the importance of research in the development of our country, to humanize and deconstruct the towering images we might have of our local researchers, and as well as to inspire um, aspiring researchers to pursue their field of research and to help create a better Philippines. Now, before we move on, we just wanted you to know that Saliksik has a set of research projects out for crowdfunding now. We have two great projects that need your help in making their research come to life. We have first Rebirth that they are aiming to build a birthing tool that allows mothers to give birth in the possession of their choice. And second, the Philippine Twitter sentiment analysis on COVID-19 response. The team will use machine learning to analyze public sentiment of the Philippine government's response on COVID-19. So here you can see presented the Philippine Twitter sentiment analysis on COVID-19 response. So to know more about these projects and to support them, please visit saliksikph.com. So here is the URL to the website of Saliksik. Now, if you haven't liked or shared our page or joined our community yet, we hope you do so. So you can find us on Facebook at Saliksik. At Saliksik. So the link is there in that slide as well. So for our interview today, I know that you will pick up some insights from our guests. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them in Slido. The link is posted right now on this slide and in the comment section below. So for today's Saliksikat webinar, we'll be having Sir Christian Pascual. He is the program chair for forensic science at the University of the Cordilleras Forensic Science Department. He is also the director for the Institute of Innovative Learning and International Cooperation at the said university. And later on, we will also be joined by a representative from Lucard Society of Forensic Science, the student organization of forensic science at the University of the Cordilleras. So, without further ado, good evening, Sir Christian. It's nice of you to join us today. Hello, Sir Christian.
Hello, Gio, and hello to
Yeah.
everyone who are tuning in this afternoon, this evening. Saliksik team, thank you for having me and featuring me as your researcher for the month of October.
Yes. Hello. Good evening, sir. So, ayan, good evening, Sir Christian. Again, it's nice of you to join us for today. Do you have anyone that you would want to greet in the audience?
Oh, definitely. I would like to greet my fellow faculty members in the University of the Cordilleras. I think our dean is watching and our vice president for academics is also watching. I would also like to greet all the students of the Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science and the Bachelor of Science in Criminology here in our university and my family as well. Hello, guys. Please be safe.
Yes. So, hello, everyone. Um, so yeah, and let's start with the interview, right? So, Sir Christian, in the past few days, everyone, like the viewers, were able to get to know you better through the post on Saliksik. But if you guys haven't checked them out yet, please do so. Go see Saliksik's Facebook page. We have about 4 days worth of content about Sir Christian. So, nevertheless, can we start the interview with having you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
All right, Gio. So as you can see on the screen, my name is Christian Pascual. I am the concurrent program chair for forensic science for the University of the Cordilleras Forensic Science Department. In 2017, I was given the wonderful opportunity to study Master of Science in Forensic Science in the United States on Fulbright Shed Scholarship. So that gave me the opportunity to study there for free. The flight is for free, the accommodation, and even a generous stipend from that scholarship. And because of that, I was able to meet so many people and people that I consider my friends for the rest of my life. And as you can see there are some photos that you can see on the screen. Those are just some photos that gives of some of the significant events that I had, like on the rightmost, you could see there my final research presentation. The middle photo was during my graduation, and the left photo is when I presented my thesis or my research study at the American Academy of Forensic Science, where I was one of the 8 students who were granted the prestigious Forensic Science Foundation travel grant to present my research there at that international conference, which was held in Maryland. I also was able to meet so many forensic scientists in the United States, and it was really a humbling experience, and they really inspired me a lot, as you can see on the photo. And then, yeah, and a lot of cool stuff, a lot of forensic stuff, like what I'm doing right now on the screen. I specialize in blood pattern analysis, and on your screen are just a summary of some of the conferences where I presented my research studies and some of the awards that I got, and from the various institutions and at the same time organizations where I presented my research study. And then, but studying in the United States also gave me the opportunity to visit some amazing places, like of course the Manhattan Bridge, as well as particularly New York, because I really love New York because of all the TV shows and movies that were shot in the United States. And then I've learned in the United States that I love soccer so much. So now I discovered that aside from research and aside from studying, I'm also I became very passionate of football because of my two best friends, which are Tavi and Musa, and you could see them there in the middle photo. And yeah, and then right now, upon because I've been studying almost all my life, and I'm just so humbled and honored that my work now, my job now, puts me in a position where I'm now able to share my knowledge and expertise to a lot of aspiring forensic scientists in the Philippines. So what you could see there is actually in a human osteology laboratory where we were able to develop that here in the University of the Cordilleras, so that our
Wow.
students would use them in their laboratory examination, to learn more about the how to identify the sex, the
Mm,
height, as well as the age of a human unidentified skeletal remains. So it's better if, aside from learning theories, they will really examine actual bones. And of course, I also do taekwondo a little. And a lot of times I was stopped by the Philippine National Police to go to different high schools to inspire senior high school students to pursue, a career in forensic or a career in criminology. So, and to pursue tertiary education in general. So that's pretty much about me. I've been studying all my life, and right now I'm an educator. It's something that I thought was a temporary job, but now I don't imagine myself doing anything else. Thank you very much, Gio.
really inspiring. So, what a very impressive, set of credentials, and now you're in a position where you can pay it forward to the next generation of forensic scientists. So, again, with that, Sir Christian is a professor at the University of Cordillera, and for the first time in Saliksikat, I would like to introduce one of his students, Gian Conehar, who will be joining us today for today's interview to help provide a student's perspective in forensic science. So he'll be joining us on some questions that we would want, or that he would want to add, no, his own ideas or perspective. So anyway, so right now, can you guys, or Sir Christian, can you tell us what forensic science is all about? So can you give us more details about it? Because I think a lot of people will have a general idea of what it is. For example, they'll see someone in a lab on an episode of CSI and think that's what forensic science is all about. But can you give us a bit of a deeper understanding of it and like a deeper appreciation of what forensic scientists do?
All right, Gio. That's a really good question. So whenever I'm asked what is forensic science, I just tell them it's science. It's science. It's the traditional sciences that chemistry, biology,
Mm-hmm.
physics, even engineering and even computer science. And what you do is that you apply those sciences so that you could help in the administration of justice. So, for example, if there is blood samples that was taken from the crime scene, what you do is that you take that blood sample and then perform some DNA analysis, which, by the way, is related to biology, right? Molecular biology, so that you could be able to develop DNA profile, and perhaps with that DNA profile you could be able to match that with a suspect of a particular crime, and so which becomes now a valuable information to prove that that suspect is probably the person who perpetrated that particular crime. So it's basically the application of the traditional sciences that chemistry, biology, physics. But right now, you're applying it to something that is really important to the lives of many people, like the fact that who committed that rape, for example. Was there to begin with? Was there a rape? And then is the person suspect alleged to have committed that really guilty of that particular crime? So yeah, I guess the key word is the word science and then the word forensic.
Right.
Because when you talk about forensic, it has something to do with the court of law. It has something to do with the
Mm-hmm.
judicial system. So it's just applying the science to the judicial system.
Okay, so it's not that complicated, I guess, after all. So basically science in applying in applied in the justice system. So I would just like to recognize as well Gian from the Lucard Society who just joined us. Yeah, and so he will be giving us the students' perspective in today's interview. So now, of course, Saliksik is interested in research. So, Sir Christian, can you share with us the past research that you've been involved in? I know earlier you shared that you've been doing a lot of research, but maybe you can highlight some of them that you'd want to talk about today. And for Gian, maybe you can talk about a track of forensic science that you think is an exciting field to study in the future, something that you want to pursue later on in your studies.
All right. So I probably would like to share my graduate school thesis. So I studied blood alcohol analysis. I used to think that it's entitled "The Effect of Blood Sample Volume, Storage Condition to the Changes in the Blood Alcohol Concentration."
Mm-hmm.
So what we did there is that we used to think that when blood samples taken from a suspected drunk driver, drunk driving is bad. It's a crime, DUI. It's a DUI case. I used to
Yeah.
think that when you take a blood sample from a drunk driver and submit it to the laboratory, the forensic laboratory will be able to tell us exactly how much alcohol is
Mm-hmm.
present in the blood of that sample at the time when the blood was collected, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
found out that it isn't that simple. The truth is, there are so many factors during the collection of that blood sample, while the sample is in storage, and before examining that blood sample in the laboratory, that can cause
Mm-hmm.
changes in the original blood alcohol concentration. And so, what we did in my thesis is that we examined the effect of those various samples because the fair and just resolution of a DUI case is primarily dependent on the results of the blood alcohol analysis. And if we don't take into account those factors, then we may have results that are inconclusive, and that may cause injustice to the person. So it's a really extensive study. We examined more than 1,300 blood samples over the span of 6 months. But basically, the simple questions that we're trying to ask. Um, if you collected the blood by using syringe, will that affect
Mm-hmm.
the blood alcohol concentration? When you don't refrigerate that sample immediately, what happens to the blood alcohol concentration? What if the person is diabetic? What if he has excess
Right.
glucose in the blood, will that cause a sudden increase in the original blood alcohol concentration? But that could cause false positive result, and that may cause conviction of the person, even if it doesn't deserve it, right? Miscarriage of justice. So basically, that's a research study, and it was really a challenging research study. But I'm fortunate enough to have finished it, and that's the reason why I graduated.
Wow, I think that's very interesting from getting such a large sample size to do the research and um, and then subjecting it to the different experimental parameters. Buti di kayo nahilo, nahilo sa daming
Nahilo ako.
factors.
Nahilo. Yeah, sobrang, it's really tiring, time consuming, but I'm fortunate that I had my research advisor. So if Dr. Billy is watching this, I hope she's watching this. She's based in the United States, so maybe she'll watch it a little later. Hi, Dr. Billy. I have my thesis advisor and undergraduate volunteers who helped me in carrying out the laboratory work for that.
Okay, so how about you, Gian? What exciting field of or or track of forensic science are you looking forward to studying?
So, hi, Mr. Gio, and to everyone. Currently, I'm intrigued with the process of collection of the evidences here in the Philippines. Um, Unfortunately, nowadays, yung process ng pagkuha ng mga evidence ng mga legal authorities is hindi ganun ka-solid or hindi siya ganun ka-concrete. I don't meant to offend them. However, sometimes yung process ng pag-collect nila is hindi systematic and bara-bara pa minsan. In that way, there is a possibility na magkaroon ng discrepancy sa magiging results ng examination. Just like, for example, the crime which occurred here in our place, there is a dismembered body in our highway. However, first of all, the police failed to put a perimeter immediately, and yung isang bagay pa, yung pag-collect nila ng cadaver and ng mga belongings ng taong namatay na yon is parang hindi sila gumamit ng mga ng mga tweezers or hindi kaya ng mga gloves. So dun pa lang makikita na natin yung mga flaws ng process ng pag-collect noon. Hopefully someday if I'm able to conduct my research, I hope that the authorities will incorporate some of the ideas to their policies.
Yeah, kita naman natin how nakaka-effect nga if hindi maayos yung pag-handle ng evidence or ng data, 'di ba? Baka mahaluan ng hindi pala dapat, tas iba na yung ma-sentence for the crime. So ayan. Before we proceed to the next question, shout out na lang sa 47 people in our audience right now on Facebook live stream. So anyway, so may shout out daw kay Papi from Joel Kasem. Ayan. So ayan, for Sir Christian and to you, Gian, I'd like to ask what inspired you or influenced you guys to pursue the path that you are in now. So what made you interested about forensic science? So kahit sino na lang.
For siguro I will go first, no, kasi I'm the first one who engaged in forensic science. But yeah, so I decided to take forensic science in 2017 when I was applying for a Fulbright scholarship. So immediately I said that there's a Fulbright scholarship that is available, and they asked me what. Of course, you have to propose a research. A study that you want to do in the United States, and I immediately said forensic science. And what inspired me to do so is because there are so many injustices that are happening in the Philippines. I feel like a lot of there were extrajudicial killing, and I feel like a lot of people are supporting that. And I guess, at first it's so hard for you to understand why people are supporting those kinds of injustices. But if you try to look at it deeper from the perspective of a criminologist, maybe a lot of people are already tired with how inefficient perhaps our justice system is in delivering justice. And a lot of the reason why the justice system cannot deliver justice is because we don't have competent forensic science. I mean, a lot of competent forensic science, and forensic science in general is still underdeveloped. And so, I wanted to study in the United States so that I could also gain the expertise needed, so that when I return, I could help my university in spearheading the development of a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science program in the university, so that with that program, we could help produce graduates who are competent, who could be competent forensic
Mm-hmm.
scientists, forensic investigators, and more than being just competent, morally upright, morally courageous, so that they themselves could help in the proper administration of justice. And hopefully, it leads to a more peaceful and progressive Philippines. So yeah, Gio.
Tama. So yeah, so for a bit of more context, no, yung undergrad niyo, sir, was criminology, 'di ba?
Yes, my undergraduate is criminology. My master's degree is in criminal justice, and then I had a PhD in criminal justice before I decided maybe I would focus on forensic science. If
Mm.
forensic science program was already made available in 2007, because that's when I took BS criminology. Maybe I took forensic science instead. But in the
Mm.
Philippines, BS forensic science program is relatively new. The policy standard and guidelines for that program was only issued by the Commission on Higher Education in 2012. So it was only in 2012 that the HEIs were now allowed
Mhm.
to offer BS forensic science program in the Philippines.
So 2012 pa lang, relatively new talaga, no? So, ano rin, sir, you already had your PhD before you proceeded to forensic science pala. Okay, that's
Yes.
very interesting. So, how about you, Gian? Ano ba yung nagtulak sa'yo to pursue forensic science?
There are two reasons on why I was inspired to take forensic science. The first one and the most important, tulad din siya nung reason ni Sir Pascual. I really want to reduce the injustices in our country. As we can see in the news, the guilty people are still
Mhm.
rampant, and the innocent or those who were powerless are not able to defend themselves. Thus, they are getting imprisoned even though it is not their crime. So, hindi ko I don't really consider na mawawala ng buo yung krimen sa buong mundo. It's almost impossible. However, um, there is a chance na kaya nating mas pababain pa yung mga injustices na nangyayari na yon dito sa bansa natin. Tapos yung susunod na doon, in a deeper perspective, of course, if forensic science is able to gather or gain a wider following, um, crime rates will also drop significantly because the criminals will become scared of committing crimes. Mas madali na lang i-track sila or mas madaling
Mhm.
mapatunayan na guilty sila. So, the second reason kung bakit ko tinake yung forensic science, it is a much personal one. Um, it is my mother's dream before is to become a lawyer or a doctor. However, due to poverty, kailangan niya makatapos agad para maging breadwinner sa family nila at mapag-aral yung mga kapatid niya. Successfully nagawa niya naman. Though sometimes medyo nagigilty siya or nagkakaroon siya ng regret sa mga decision niya kung bakit ganun yung kailangan niya pagdaanan. However, to make her happy as her eldest son, I'm willing to not only to fulfill one of those dreams but both of those dreams to in order to really make her happy. So that's all.
Mhm. napaka, like inspiring naman ng reasons nyo for pursuing forensic science. And I guess yung pinaka like import or pinaka relatable to the audience, I guess, would be yung goal niyo talaga to help solve crime in our country, or at least if may crime man na mangyari, at least yung tamang the person that actually did it yung held accountable for the crime. So with that, Sir Christian, what can you say about your experience as a researcher here in the Philippines, and what about research in general in the country? Would you say that, and as a follow up, would you say that there is any difference between researching in the criminology field and between the forensic science field? Yeah. So if yes, what would those possibly be?
Wow, napaka-complex ng question, but allow me to to answer the different aspect of that question. No? For me, my experience in the Philippines is that in terms of my research experience, there's like most of the research studies that are done, they're being done by like for example in the field of criminology, we only see criminologists doing I mean trying to ask the questions related to criminology or related to criminal justice. I feel like uh, in other countries, I feel like it's important for us to also be open to collaborating with other people from other disciplines. And we're starting to do it right now in the University of the Cordilleras. What we do is that, for example, in criminal justice, we collaborate with or in forensic science, we collaborate with the other disciplines like the IT, information technology and computer science. With our collaboration, we recently were able to develop a automated crime scene reconstruction software. It's a tool where instead of just doing sketch, doing photograph, or writing narratives, you could be able to generate a three-dimensional or virtual representation of the crime scene. It could also help you show like actual measurements. It could compute actual measurements for you, like the distance between the blood and the victim, for example. So I feel like in the Philippines, for a long time, we don't have multidisciplinary types of research. But I
Right.
guess right now we are starting to embrace the fact that even if that question or that research topic is generally just about criminology or criminal justice, a criminologist or a forensic scientist could also collaborate with other field. And together with our collaboration, we could be able to, address those questions better and probably be able to generate more output out of it.
Wow. So it's good to know that parang forensic science is one of the fields that is leading the way in collaborative research, especially here in the country, and also yung fact na that there has been progress rin in um, forensic science here in the Philippines with the one that you mentioned, yung computer generated na parang crime scene na parang you can simulate it. Um, so yeah, with that, para lalong ma-appreciate ng audience, no, can you, ano na lang, parang further stress the importance of forensic science, especially in the Philippine setting, and maybe also mention some areas that you think that we can improve on. I know that both of you already mentioned why it's important to improve forensic science in the Philippines, but yeah, para lalo namang ma-appreciate ng audience.
That's a really good question, Gio. No, well, to begin, if imagine a criminal justice system that without forensic science. Imagine the police officer will go to the crime scene. He will see a lot of physical evidence there that could give him a clue on who committed the crime, when the crime happened. But without forensic science, no one could help that investigator or police officer analyze and interpret those evidence. What that would mean is that he will not be able to provide valuable report or valuable information that will serve as basis for the prosecutors in proving the guilt of the person in court. And the court will also not have a basis on whether in figuring out whether the person is guilty or not in criminal case beyond reasonable doubt. And so in the absence, by just looking at what I just said, it's impossible to imagine a effective and an efficient criminal justice system without forensic science. So that's how much investment we have to do in forensic science and the different forensic science field, Gio.
Mm.
And then I guess
How about
there's a second part of your question. I forgot. I guess I missed the second part as
and
well.
like, what do you think we can improve on in the field of forensic science?
That's a really good question. For me, what we could improve on in the field of forensic science right now starts with um, creating standards on that
Mm.
can be used by the prosecutors and the court of the justice system in determining what forensic science is admissible, or what forensic evidence is admissible or not. In the Philippines, for as long as you maintain the chain of custody of evidence, for as long as you were able to qualify the person as the forensic scientist as an expert witness, that forensic evidence could already be admitted in court. In the United States, they have higher level of standards to ensure that the only forensic evidence that will be admissible in court are the ones that are generated from sound science, or reliable
Mm.
sciences, and not just pseudosciences. For example, there you have to produce whenever you try to present forensic evidence in the court, you have to convince the court that the technique that was used in exam, or the method that was used in examining that evidence meet the Dobbert standard, where the court will ask what is the error rate, what is the margin of what is the chances that you committed error? Is it 99% accurate, for example? Is the technique proven by experiments, by research studies that were published? And were those research studies peer reviewed? Is the technique something that is generally accepted by the relevant scientific community? So it's only when you ask those questions and you meet those standards that the court will say, okay, we will admit that forensic evidence in court, and we will consider that in figuring out what to do with the issue that may be very important to the parties involved, the victim and the criminal. So I guess what we could change in the Philippines is to start asking the question, what else can we do? What guidelines, what standards can we impose to ensure that only sound forensic sciences or techniques
Mm.
will be acceptable in court?
Yeah, so it's very interesting that what I can get from what you said is it basically says that forensic science in the Philippines is still very like underdeveloped kasi yung processes and how it's done hindi pa pala standardized, right? So parang um if you would want to consider a field already established, I guess yung standardization ng mga processes would probably be the one of the first things that you would do, right? So yeah, so parang that's kind of sad because now it's not standardized, but hopefully it's something that we can look forward to in the future. And yun lang. Parang I also want to point out na it's very interesting because in other countries na mas advanced na yung forensic science, parang mas what you're gonna do, parang nagde-defense ka pala ng thesis or something like that. So parang mas strict pa nga yung yung mga judge. Ganun. Ikaw, how about you, Christian? From like the perspective of a student, what are the things na parang in-emphasize ng mga professors mo na um, that should be improved on in forensic science that you've learned in like the classroom and your experiments?
Um, yung first meeting namin ni Sir Christian, yung isa sa in-emphasize niya sa akin, especially when we study the case of O.J. Simpson, um, we should be critical in terms of making decisions or
Mm.
assumptions. Hindi porket na tapos kung ano yung mga present lang na nakikita natin na evidences, dun dapat tayo mag-focus. Kasi kung susubukan natin na lumabas dun sa mga evidences na nakikita natin or present, magkakaroon ng bias kumbaga. mahahalo yung opinion natin.
Mm.
So, kaya nga siya tinawag na forensic science since it is a systematic study of crime. So,
Mm.
kung gagawa lang tayo ng assumptions or hindi tayo magiging critical sa mga evidences na pwede nating ibigay sa court, then magkakaroon ng discrepancy or magkakaroon ng
Mm.
mali-mali sa magiging decision ng judge.
Yun, so very interesting din, no? So parang yung main like really idea dun is hindi nagsisinungaling yung data or yung evidence na makukuha ng maayos na pag-carry out ng forensic science. So, yun. And also, na-shoutout yung case ni O.J. Simpson pala, no? So, paki-comment na lang kung buhay na kayo kung nangyari yung crime na yun. Para
All
alam
right.
natin yung age ng audience natin. So, yun. So, I that was very interesting of what we previously talked about forensic science, especially here in the Philippines. So yeah, so we really learned about forensic science here in the Philippines over the past few minutes that we've been talking, no. So, but I'd also like to ask you, Sir Christian, um, what field of research, of course, aside from forensic science, should Filipinos be tackling? Especially because
No.
you previously mentioned yung ano no, yung collaborative research. So,
Mm.
what other field do you think we need to develop before, pwede pa nating palakasin lalo yung forensic science?
Siguro if I'm not conducting forensic science research study, another
Mm.
field that I think the Philippines should research on or research about will be how to combat the existential threat that we are experiencing right now, which is climate change. Maybe we could
Mm.
engage in research study on how we could improve the various industries like agriculture, how we manufacture in the manufacturing industries, so that we not only prevent or limit our carbon emission, but also how do we sequester the carbon that we already produce in the decades, centuries that we've
Mm.
been producing carbon. No? So I feel like it is a challenge. It's something that we really have to study and research about, because if we don't solve climate change, I mean, we may not survive as
Right.
as a
Mm.
species.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point because malamang edi anong purpose ng other things that we're studying if puro naman tayo malulunod in the next 10 years.
Mm.
Yeah, so napaka, I guess, timely and relevant nung suggestion you, sir. Before we continue, I guess it's a great time to read some shoutouts from the audience. So, ayan, let's just wait for, ayan, from Jill Manapat, she's watching from Rizal. Hi, Ma'am Jill.
Hello, Jill.
Ayan, Olga Arce from, also member of Locard. Um, Casilian Belly, nag-send siya ng heart. Ayan, another green heart. Are these your students po ba, sir? Ayan, Joshua
Hello.
Bascos from Baguio City.
Hello, Joshua. Joshua will be joining the forensic science program of the University of the Cordilleras as an adjunct faculty member. He will handle digital forensic 1 and digital forensic 2. And by the way, Joshua is one of the team members of the team of Baguio Visita, where they're now developing the the Baguio Visita application for you to schedule a visit here in Baguio City. So thank you very much, Joshua, for
Mm.
tuning in. And thank you for what you guys do for the city.
Mm-mm. Ayan, a lot of the audience coming from Baguio City, like Olga Arce. And we also have someone from Mandaluyong, si Fiona Lagyo. Um, ayan, so another one, si Jamie Tolentino watching from Pampanga.
Hello,
So,
Jamie. Jamie is our second year student in the program.
mm, again, guys, don't forget if you want to send in questions, um, yeah, and the link is right there on the screen. Okay, so now we're nearing the end of the main interview. Um, so before we continue, we'd like to get to know you guys better. So first, I'd like to ask Sir Christian, um, who is Christian when he isn't being a researcher or a professor? I know earlier you mentioned about how you enjoy soccer, football. So maybe you'd want to share more about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Who is Christian when he's not researching? Well, I do cardio a lot, so I love running. I feel like I'm at peace whenever I run, and because I love cardio, that by extension, I would also like soccer or football. So I wish to do that a lot more when the pandemic is over. I also manage my own YouTube account. It's called Cream Hub
Mm,
PH. So you may want to check that out, guys, where I do some vlogs about things related to forensic and criminology.
okay.
I love to cook. Unfortunately, I don't do that more often. I mean, these days, because it's been really quite a hectic schedule for me in the past few months. So yeah, that's what I do whenever I do research.
Sige, plug natin ulit yung YouTube account ni Sir towards the end. Um,
All right, thank you.
quick question na lang din, Sir. For example, like based sa sinabi niyo, would you be able to tell if like a person does cardio based sa parang like remains niya, like from a forensic scientist point of view, like can you tell like their lifestyle based sa like buto niya or something like that?
That's really interesting. No, we have. I guess the best person to answer that is Dr. Tanya Ulden, our resident forensic anthropologist. She's a German forensic anthropologist, and she said that you could learn a lot. You could learn so much from just looking at the bones of the person, what is his lifestyle, whether that person just works in the office and not so active versus a person who does a lot of running or an athlete. So of course, it will take a lot of examination and a lot of data that you need to examine for you to come up with that opinion. But I don't feel like I have the right expertise to make that kind of judgment whenever I see a skeletal remain. Maybe ako yung level pa lang is when I see a human skeletal remain, I could examine whether that person is a male. I
Mm.
could apply certain techniques to estimate the age and possibly the height as well. But other than that, yung lifestyle niya or ano yung kinakain niya before,
Mm.
medyo masyadong advanced na siya for me. But definitely, yes, if you are a person like Dr.
Re-
Tanya Olden, who's by the way, one of the very competent and very nice faculty members of the CCJE Family Forensic Science Department, she can do that or make that opinion.
regard
Yes.
Regarding po sa sa tawag dito sa bones, if that person is doing exercise or cardio, even though I'm not an expert like Dr. Tanya Olden, I think I can give an assumption. Makikita natin 'yon kung sakali sa bone density ng tao, especially when we do exercise, yung nagkakaroon tayo ng mga micro fractures. Then every
Mm.
time those micro fractures heal, mas tumitibay yung buo natin, ay yung buto natin dahil nag-overcompensate sila. So, doon pa lang possibly na ma-identify natin kung runner ba yung isang tao if sa foot niya or sa shin area makapal yung bone density niya.
Mm.
Or kundi kaya kapag sa upper body, mga bodybuilder, ganon.
Nako.
But that's
Nako
only an
mukhang
assumption.
Nako, mukhang si Gian have the aptitude to become a forensic anthropologist, no? Because in our program, Sir Gio, we have elective courses. So you
Mm.
are required to take 3 elective courses, but no one is forcing you to choose which among the options, will you take. And a good option are the courses in forensic anthropology. We have 3 courses in forensic anthropology. Forensic Anthropology 1, which is just an introductory course. Forensic Anthropology 2, where you're now doing the biological profiling of skeletal remain. And then there's also Forensic Archaeology, and part of that is you are exhuming skeletal remains. So And if you finish those courses, then when you finish your undergraduate, you're probably more advanced than any other graduates of any other undergraduate program in the Philippines. So it's a unique thing in our program. And maybe Gian and those who are watching or studying may also interested in forensic anthropology. And those courses were developed and are being taught by Dr. Tanya Oldin, as I said, a German forensic anthropologist who was an
Mm.
adjunct faculty member in UC.
Okay. Napaka-international pala ng faculty at the University of Cordillera. Um, so yun, medyo related din sa what we just talked about. Gian, can you share to us like what what is it like in the day of a life of a forensic science student? So parang every day tumitingin ba kayo ng bones or or something like that? Kumusta ba?
Obviously, right now it is stressful since we are still adjusting to
Mhm.
the transition of our educational system from traditional one to flexible learning system. However, um, during our face-to-face classes back then, we used to do crime scene sketch or study bones, analyze bones, something like that. Though though unfortunately we are not able to do it right now because
Mm,
it is much efficient to do it online. I to do it
mm,
personally rather
research.
than
Oh.
face to face. I rather than online. Sorry, I'm being confused. Um, so so yung isang factor pa, even though na ganun yung nagiging stress namin, especially medyo complicated din yung pinag-aaralan namin dahil bago pa lang yung forensic science sa Philippines. Everything will become worth it someday for me, especially if we are able to achieve our dream.
Mhm.
Um, we just need to endure our hardships for now.
Yeah, so very solid answer. Um, so yeah, now just to end the main interview portion of this interview, um, and to end it on even more inspiring note, no, Christian, can you share some of the challenges you faced as like or like as a researcher or as a student, and what were your key learnings from them that you can share with the audience to inspire them some more?
Wow, that's a really profound question. Probably, I will again really go back to my thesis. It was a very comprehensive research study,
Mhm.
complex, and it takes a lot of work to do. There were times when I feel like because I was doing it while I'm also doing coursework, so I'm
Mhm.
taking courses as well in the graduate school, and while doing the laboratory, there were times when I felt like I wouldn't be able to finish the study on time, which will ruin the entire study if there will be delay because time
Mhm.
is really important
Right.
consideration in my research study. I felt like at some point I was already doubting myself if I could be able to do it or am I the right person to carry out that research study. But when you are doubting yourself or when you feel like you cannot do it um, on your own, there are always people who are willing to extend helping hand if only you will reach out. So just like in life, in research, there are always people you could who will have your back, right? So
Mhm.
I'm that's why I'm really fortunate, as I've said earlier, that I have a very supportive research advisor. I was surrounded by my fellow graduate school students who helped me carry pipette a lot of blood. Sometimes they even go to the they're the one who are I mean putting the samples in the GCMS instrument. And I had student volunteers from the undergraduate program in biology and chemistry of my university in the United States. And so there are for I think like these people, if you feel like your research is really something that could bring about a significant results that's really important, then there will always be people who would be willing to help you carry, fulfill that, that research or realize that research study.
Very inspiring talaga. Especially, I guess, now, no, in the time of pandemic that, people might be really feeling things. So, ayun, so always um, acknowledge, I guess, that you can ask people for help and support. So, yeah, and so I guess yan yung serve as the end of our main interview, something that we can remember and hold on to always. Know that people will be willing to help you if you ask for help. Yeah. So so now it's again, that was the end of the main interview portion. Now it's the most awaited part ng ating audience. We will now answer questions that they sent in through um, Slido. So while we'll be answering questions from the audience, maybe we can also read some shoutouts that will be posted in the live stream, like this one from, again, Jamie Tolentino from Pampanga. So yeah, let's answer one of the questions sent in from Slido. Another from Maxine Rodriguez, watching from QC, who also sent a question via Slido. So yeah, let's look for the first question. Question one from Slido, from Anonymous. Does the Philippine government make use of forensic science or refuses to acknowledge it because it exposes unsavory things about state officials? Napaka
Controversial. Yeah. Nung question, no? Yeah, I mean,
first
I
question
would
pa
say
lang.
that, I would say that the criminal justice system, particularly the prosecutors, the court, the defense, and of course the law enforcement enforcers who will investigate the crime are making use of forensic sciences like the traditional ones, which are fingerprint, and of course, right now we have DNA analysis at our disposal as one of the forensic sciences, ballistics, and firearms identification. So yeah, they're making use of it. However, I feel like forensic sciences are just circumstantial evidence in nature. That is to say that a fingerprint, for example, that matches an unknown fingerprint that was found in the crime scene, that was proven to have matched the suspect, does not necessarily mean that the suspect was the one who carried out the crime. It only means that the person is present in
Right.
the crime, and so there should also be other forensic evidence, that or physical evidence that we could analyze and together with that fingerprint and all those other evidence, we could absolutely ascertain that that person is guilty of the crime that was alleged against him. So I guess the misconception is that forensic evidence could prove the guilt of a person. It's always a combination of different forensic evidence and other evidence like testimonial evidence, documentary evidence as well. As to the second question, or that's the Philippines refuses to admit. I would like to believe that there are mechanisms already set in the criminal justice system, like the fact that if you're proven guilty, you could appeal, right? You could apply for an appeal. You could have your case be reviewed, and those kinds of safety net ensures that there will be no miscarriage of justice that will be conducted. And so what we could do is that focus on what's good, focus on what we have already, and then probably figuring out how to strengthen that and figure out ways on
Right.
how to improve that. Like we have future forensic expert like Gian who said he would like to standardize the way on how evidence are collected so that they don't, when the evidence is collected in court, it will not just be made inadmissible or will not be admitted in court, right? So yeah, there are technicalities, of course, in court. That's why some forensic evidence will not be accepted, even if those evidence are really relevant. Because just like what Gian said earlier, the collection of those evidence was not carried out in a way that is stated in the law.
Based on my
Uh,
perspective naman po, does the Philippine government make use of forensic science? Actually, if I'm not wrong, it is currently making use of it through implementing the forensic science course itself. So in that way, dun pa lang makikita na natin na they have the initiative somehow to use the forensic science in order to efficiently solve crimes that that occurs every day here in our country. Especially yung unang-una, we are lacking in terms of the proper guidelines and process of collection of the evidences. Yung isang bagay pa, kinukulang din tayo sa mga expert sa field na yun or sa mga gawain na yun. So, doon natin makikita yung
Mukhang naputol si Gian.
yung parating ng question na
Ayan na. Naku, ano yung makikita natin?
Curious din ako.
Ay, medyo nawala ka. Pwede pakiulit from the part na kung ano yung makikita natin.
Oh, wait, I forgot my okay. I forgot my answer. So ayun nga, dun pa lang makikita na natin yung gustong itanong or yung gustong iparating ng question kung ginagamit ba o hindi yung forensic science. Based on my answer as a student, yes. However, yung kailangan na lang natin gawin yung kailangan nilang gawin since it's their responsibility to do so, is mas palawakin pa or mas i-promote pa nila yung course na forensic science para ma-achieve natin yung desire natin na results sa justice system or sa society.
Yeah, so parang, I guess, yung parang pwede ko na rin i-take away dun, no? Especially with the second part of the question is parang it's really important that we strengthen yung parang existing forensic science natin here in the Philippines so that whenever na it is used, parang the facts are there or parang you can really trust the results of the experiments of the forensic scientists para if ever may instances man na parang dayain yung kaso or something like that, at least it becomes harder because of course you do have the facts or like the evidence is solid through the work of the forensic scientists. So
yung isa ko pong pwedeng idagdag, even though I'm still a student, yes, the evidences the forensic experts have examined are highly accurate. However, it can still be manipulated by those people who are in power. So mamaya baka magkaroon ng misconception na accurate daw yung forensic science. No. Yes, the results itself, the results of the experiment or the examination itself is accurate. However, hanggang dun lang yung responsibility ng mga forensic scientists. Hindi na namin kontrolado, especially as future experts, kung ano mangyayari sa mismong court. Pwede pa ding napatunayang mali yung napatunayang guilty yung isang tao. Pero up pa din yon sa in the end of the day, lahat ng decision or yung magiging result ng laban sa korte is sa judge pa din.
Exactly. I will just add on that, no?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, Gio. Tama yung sinabi ni Gian, no? Forensic scientists are scientists, so they should remain men of science, no? Their job is to analyze and interpret the evidence. Their job is not to secure conviction for the suspect or avenge the victim. Whatever findings they have in court, they have to present it in a way that's impartial, that's objective, and they should not overstate the importance of their analysis or diba, go beyond what they could give as opinion in court.
Yeah, and so that, yeah, so very nice yung buo na ng ano no, yung answer ng sagot. And again, I just also point out something that was hinted already earlier, you know, when Gian mentioned it, that you, Sir Christian, mentioned it in your class, na parang especially in the case nung OJ Simpson nga, forensic science should be really unbiased, or parang it shouldn't let sentiments get in the way of um doing the scientific work talaga. So, ayan. Let's move on to the second question from the audience. Another anonymous question. Is there any field for forensic science that is present in other countries but not yet introduced here in the Philippines?
Yeah, there are not necessarily not yet introduced, but probably still needs further development. Like for example, in the states, a lot of crime laboratories already have blood pattern analyst or analysis, where you examine the shape, the position, directionality of blood, so that you could generate information that will help reconstruct what happened to a crime. I feel like that's something that we could further develop in the Philippines. Also, in other countries, they have a well-established forensic entomology, or the study of insects of forensic value.
Mm.
Insects are valuable to us forensic scientists because they could also help estimate the post-mortem interval, or the time since the person died and the person was discovered, which also is very important in trying to reconstruct the sequence of event that happened. In, for example, proving or disproving the alibi of a person. There are researchers, I think, particularly from UP Diliman and UP Los Baños, that are really interested about this, and we feel like it's something that we could further develop as a field, diba, that could be, you know, used by our forensic scientists in their by investigators at their disposal. Um, what else? I could think so much, but right now those are the two major ones. Wildlife forensics. So I would like to commend the Institute of Biology of the UP Diliman for starting the first ever wildlife forensic laboratory. Because a lot of endangered species are being trafficked here in the Philippines, and so with wildlife forensic, we could be able to enforce the law that protects this endangered species better. And so, yeah, I hope that's something that could be developed beyond, UP Diliman, and with other institutions who are already offering the BS Forensic Science program.
Mm. How about you, Gian? May gusto ko bang i-add?
Um, Based on my knowledge, yung isang mabibigay ko, wala pang undergraduate program pa ata dito ng forensic psychology sa Philippines. Though there is a doctorate one, pero kung if you really want to pursue forensic psychology, you need to take a course first on psychology, then you will specialize in forensic psychology for your master's degree and doctor's degree.
Okay, very interesting naman. Another side of forensic science, no? Yung parang paano nag-iisip yung gumawa ng crime or something like that. And also, parang very interesting yung minention ni Sir Christian earlier about um, forensic science and yung study ng insects. Like, di ko yan like naisip before. Na parang very important din, or nakatulong talaga yung kung kailan tinart may flies na sa katawan or something like that. Very, very interesting. So, ayan. Let's move on to the third question. From Anonymous again. Before that, my shout out, hi, Christian and Gian. Ito lang. Which TV shows or movies do you think most accurately portray the field of forensic science?
That's a really good question. So there's a competition, no? May for CSI, may mga iba-ibang CSI shows, and also there are But for me, ako, pinaka na-appreciate ko talaga is forensic files because it's based on actual cases. So, hindi siya masyadong hinaluan ng fiction. So, yeah, for me, forensic files.
Forensic files. Um, uh, ay, nawala si sir. Sige. Sige, let's move on na lang to the next question habang hinahanap pa si sir. Okay, so third question from Slido. Will there be any professional credibility examination for aspiring forensic scientists? Um, so I guess as of now, Gian, wala pa kayong parang board exam or licensure exam.
Um, yes, that's true po. Though, even though na wala kaming licensure exam, yung, yung curriculum namin is ginawa talaga siyang straight para ma-filter yung mga students. For example, if you have any failing grade, then there is a chance that you need to shift to other course if you want to stay in our university, or you may take the same course, however, on different schools which offers the same course like us. So for
So,
now, yun lang yung yun yung nagiging yun yung nagiging credibility examination ng mga future forensic experts. However, tulad nga ng in-imply ko kanina, it doesn't mean na porket wala kaming board exam, easy-easy na lang yung buhay. No. We are really being highly trained for our future profession. However, tulad din ng nasabi ko kanina, nagkakaroon lang ng difficulties at the in this time, especially we are in the midst of a pandemic. Kaya hindi na parang hindi na ma-maximize yung hindi na ma-maximize masyado yung mga yung learning techniques ng every school sa bansa natin. Of course, including us.
yeah. So,
Alright.
Hi sir. So, si Christian si Gian kinikwento niya lang. Because the question was, will there be any professional credibility examination for the aspiring forensic scientists? So, Gian was just telling us about how, you know, may strict standards naman at the University of Cordilleras, which, like help make sure na the university produces quality forensic scientists. Pero from your perspective as as already a professional in the field, are you working with um, the government in order to make or to create the board examination, licensure examination for forensic science?
Ako personally, I'm not in support of creating a standardized licensure examination for forensic scientists in the Philippines, because in the first place, forensic science is very broad. Diba? There are different fields in it. In the United States na lang, for example, there's no board exam for forensic science. What they do upon graduating forensic science is that they specialize in a particular forensic science discipline. And then once they figure out which among those disciplines they would like to specialize on, what they do is that they take the certification training certification training for that particular field. So let's say, for example, if you're a forensic anthropologist, you will have to take the certification examination from the American Forensic Anthropology Board. And once you get admitted, then you are now certified to examine human skeletal remains. So I mean, it will really be difficult. It's hard to imagine a board exam for forensic science. So what we are doing here in the University of the Cordilleras is right now we're making some link and connections and talking with some international accrediting bodies, so that once our student graduates, they could be able to take the certification training or examination in the respective field of their choosing.
Okay, very interesting, no? So basically, forensic science, like at the undergraduate level, is very broad and So like mahirap ngang bigyan ng standardized examination for everyone. So yeah, very interesting. Learn something new about forensic science. So here's another question. How many master's degree programs related to forensic science and where are they offered? Are mere BSFSCI graduates hireable as experts or as SOCO?
Yeah, so right now in the Philippines, I'm not sure if it's already being realized, but there is, I guess there was a talk about opening Master of Science in Forensic Science at University of Philippines, Manila. So there are so many competent experts, forensic experts in the Philippines who are helping develop that program. So that's something that should make everyone who's interested in forensic science excited about. But in other countries, there are a lot of forensic master's degree program in forensic science. In the Philippines, we have experienced students in our university in particular where they studied BS forensic science in other university, and right now they're doing their graduate school in criminal justice here in the university, probably just to broaden their understanding about criminal justice system and how it relates to forensic science. Are BS forensic science graduate hireable as expert in SOCO? Definitely. And I would say that they should be preferred compared to any other criminologists and forensic science students should be preferred compared to any other graduates or disciplines when it comes to the SOCO, because in our program alone, our students have 8 crime detection and investigation courses, starting for the fundamental ones to more advanced one. They have so many forensic courses that they could also use in scene of the crime operation. By the way, for those who doesn't know, kala kasi nila yung TV show is SOCO, no? Scene of the crime operation, that's basically crime scene processing. And I would say that our students have deep appreciation of the different steps and the different protocols that are being carried out in the crime scene processing. And so I feel like they should be preferred, but definitely they're qualified to take on that responsibility.
Right. So I guess relate na lang natin no to this um next question. So if like forensic science students should be preferred in SOCO, ito naman what kind of work is waiting for a forensic science student na hindi naman you know in SOCO or something
Yeah, so
like
pag
that.
sinabi mo kasing SOCO, those are the people who goes to the crime scene,
Mm,
identify, collect, gather physical evidence, right? They could also work in the laboratory. So, yeah, in the PNP crime lab, there are different fields. There are different divisions there or branches. So if you don't want to work in the SOCO because you don't want to be in the field, you could work in the laboratory and examine different types of trace evidence. So you will examine fibers, hairs, um, ano pa ba? I would say that our graduates as well could handle and could perform some form of DNA analysis, diba? DNA profiling as well. They have courses related to that. Toxicological analysis as well. So if you see some blood, like in my case,
mhm.
I could examine the presence of ethanol and measure the ethanol that is present in the compound. So there are so many jobs for that is waiting for a forensic science graduate here in the Philippines. In the first place, there are so many public safety agencies that will need the expertise of a forensic expert. And also, there are private agencies that a forensic science may also work is also relevant or is needed.
Mm. Aside from those that you mentioned, sir, do you think forensic science is also like a good, for example, stepping stone towards other further studies in like social sciences, like you nga, mentioned or hinted earlier, like mga archaeology, anthropology, doing research in those types of fields, then, sir?
Yeah, definitely. We as in, we have some students right now who are taking forensic science, and then took forensic science in their undergraduate, but now their research interests have changed. They're now concerned more on forensic psychology. They're more concerned now about studying the behavior of people, particularly the criminals or particularly pedophiles. And so, they're able to apply what they've learned in forensic science at their undergraduate in what they are interested, di ba, in their graduate studies. Ako naman baliktad. Nag-start ako ng social science, which is criminology, and then suddenly na merong mga forensic science, mangilan-ngilan na forensic science courses, and then eventually I wanted to do more of forensic science.
Yeah, very exciting for Gian, daming options in life later on.
And just like what Gian said kanina, Gio, no? Gian is using forensic science as a pre-law and pre-med. So that's also recommended as well, because in forensic science, number one, you are being trained to think critically, which is a skill that you need to survive graduate school or even med school. But also there are a lot of natural sciences courses that will help you in med school when you take the program. But also last na is that there are a lot of law courses. I forgot to mention earlier that our forensic science program, you're required to take around 8 courses related to law, and all of those courses will be taught by practicing lawyers. So not just graduates of law or pass the bar exam, but really practicing lawyers like we have a part of our faculty member is a prosecutor, someone used to work for the Court of Appeals, who just finished her LLM at Columbia University in New York. So and being trained or being exposed to these kinds of professors will also help you give you advantage when you take law in the future.
Wow, very interesting. Like dami rin to take in, no? Pero very good discussion so far. So ito, mga sir, what research title would you like to suggest for a student currently taking our research courses in relation to forensic science and BS in criminology? So, yeah, a question from a student.
Oo nga, mukhang pinapagawa mo na sa amin yung thesis mo. Ayan. What research title would you say? Research topic, no? As I've said earlier, marami pa rin pwede. Like, maybe we could conduct a research study that will really determine the role and impact of forensic evidence in the criminal justice processes or decisions. Like, we've known that fingerprint has always been there, pero how many times na nakakatulong ba yung fingerprint, diba, sa decision ng judge? Sa decision ng police, sa decision ng prosecutor. So, yung mga ganung study, dapat, di ba, parang we thought that they were already answered long time ago because these disciplines has been there. Pero no one dared to answer them. No one dared to investigate those questions. And those questions are important for our policymakers, di ba? Also, how accurate is fingerprint examination in the Philippines? We've said that DNA, it's infallible, you cannot make error, pero there is always that human error, that human factor, diba? So no one dared to, make an experimental study involving our fingerprint examiners, diba? To really determine how accurate they are. We just assume when they examine, they're 100% right all the time. And that's also true. That kind of research can also be done in any other forensic science discipline that's already here in the Philippines. So it need not be a research study that's pioneering or you're starting a new field in forensic science. It could be an evaluation of forensic science discipline that's already existing. That's it.
Yeah, so I guess parang ma-appreciate mo na lang din na there isn't that great, like pressure to create like novel like research ganon in the field of forensic science, because a lot of parang the things we take for granted require like validation na naman, especially because you need to make sure that these things work in order na hindi yung maling tao yung mag-pay for the crime, something like that. It's very interesting. So yan, Gian.
Similar sa nasabi ni Sir din kanina about sa fingerprint, I suggest na pwede ding pag-aralan yung accuracy ng mga lie detection test, especially it is
Mm-hmm.
considered as pseudoscience sa pagkakalala ko. Unang-una, paano yung mga tao na since yung lie detection test, based on my knowledge, yung kinukuha niya
Right.
is yung about sa heartbeat, breathing, I think pati yung breathing, pati tapos yung mga sweat glands sa tao. How about yung mga tao na nervyoso o kundi kaya yung may mga sakit sa puso or yung pawisin? Then hindi siya, kung ganun yung magiging scenario or yung situation, tapos kunwari magtatanong ka, yung magkokonda ka ng ganong test sa mga ganong tao, then hindi siya magpro-produce ng accurate result. Pwedeng pwedeng ma pwedeng lumabas sa result na guilty yung tao, kahit hindi, pwede naman palang hindi. So, talagang parang magulo yung magiging result
Mm-hmm.
sa lie detection test. Then, pwede din natin ipasok doon kung kailan lang ba pwede gamitin yung mga ganong test kung sakali. Even though it is considered as pseudoscience, it doesn't mean na hindi na natin siya kailangan. Of course, it is somehow still necessary. Pero kailangan lang natin alamin kung kaninong tao or kung saang scenario siya appropriate na
Alright,
gamitin.
siguro idagdagan ko lang yung sinabi ni Gian about polygraph, no? And this is even happening, Gio, in the States, where they're using still polygraph
Mm-hmm.
in selecting their applicants. For example, if you want to work for a forensic laboratory or if you want to work for the police force, part of the screening is you have to pass the polygraph. So it's important for us to evaluate whether polygraph examination is really accurate or prone siya to false positive results wherein truthful naman pala yung tao pero the instrument says naglalay siya. So, because if we were able to prove that it's not correct and it's always wrong, then maybe we could do away with that, diba? And not
Mm-hmm.
conduct that, not implement that anymore. Kasi stressful talaga yung polygraph. Medyo kailangan ko lang mag-respond doon because I myself experience undergoing polygraph. Not for a crime, but when before, as part of the selection process for my internship in the United States. So it was a requirement for me to be an intern at the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. So it's stressful. It's 4 hours of continuous
Wow.
questioning, and I wasn't lying at all. Tinanong ako, ikaw ba ay nagnakaw in the past? I said, yes, because nagnakaw ako ng mangga ng kapitbahay namin. And you have to be honest about it, right? And then being honest. So, yeah, it was a really stressful uh, thing, and we have to evaluate whether we still have to continue doing it.
So, parang 4 hours ba talaga dapat yung polygraph test?
Yung,
Or
yes, yung experience ko, for the most part, 4 hours siya. And pwede pa siyang tumagal. Pwede pa siyang tumagal depending on the
wow.
subject. Yeah.
Ooh, grabe, para mapa like mapa-false positive ka na lang ata sa ganun, no? Grabe.
Oo. Feeling ko hindi na yung nervousness ko yung nasa-sense ng machine. Kasi diba, it records how nervous you are whenever you lie. But feeling ko yung nadidetect na ng machine yung gutom ko. Kasi it took 4 hours for the test. So, baka nadidetect yun ng pneumograph. Or, yeah, which is part of the instrument.
Yes. Ayan. Next question. Are there organizations that provide assistance, especially monetary, for those willing to conduct research about forensic science?
Well, I hope the Department of Science Technology, di ba, could be open to
Yes.
forensic science. I think the Institute of Biology, the Wildlife Forensic Laboratory, is funded by the Department of Science and Technology, so that's a good thing.
Mhm.
And I think the DNA laboratory in UP Diliman is also funded by the Department of Science and Technology. So DOST is something that is could be a source of that funding. But also for me as an educator right now, we just got the team that I lead just got 8 million grant from the
Wow.
Commission on Higher Education so that in 1 year time, supposedly 2 years, di ba? Pero na-reduce siya. So in 1 year time, we will develop educational technologies that will enhance the delivery of forensic science courses for the criminology and the forensic science program. So that's something that we really look forward to. Medyo na-postpone lang siya ng konti because of the uh, pandemic, but we're excited to do that. Private, maybe Saliksik
Oh,
could also, figure out a way to connect yung mga forensic science researchers to source of funding.
true. Yeah, and so very good connections. Yeah, so again, if there are anyone if there's anyone in the audience that's interested in doing some sort of research work, um I guess a good way, to get funding to get your research like jump started is through um the Saliksik platform. Especially because um you know na-mention ni Sir Christian yung getting funds and grants from the government. But again, these processes may take um, a really well, let's just say a long time now before it gets approved, and you need to write a lot of like proposals. So most likely a good way to get a bit of funding to jumpstart your research is through the Saliksik platform. So you have to like make up your proposal and then put it up um, on the website in order to get people interested in it and whatnot. So yeah, so let's see if we have other questions. And this one is UC planning to establish any laboratory that specializes in any field of forensics? I guess medyo related into sa grant that you just got from CHED, no? So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. So right now, nagkaroon ng pandemic, and so I hope the BT for academics is here, Dr. Ariel. So actually, the renovation of our third floor here, fifth floor, actually, technically fifth floor dito sa UC Ligarda campus. It's already about to be renovated. I think this November, because that will be the DNA laboratory. So the budget for that, the plan, there's already the plan for that is about to be carried out, and so we intend that that laboratory will not just be used for by our students for their studies and research, but also that laboratory could also serve as a private DNA laboratory that will cater to the local cases here in Baguio City. So yeah, we intend to do that. But at the same time, we have a human osteology laboratory. As I said earlier, we have 50 plus human skeletal remains that were transferred here thanks to the UP Diliman. And so those are being used already by our students. But we are open as well to welcoming the members of the Philippine National Police or the members of the NBI who would also like to be trained in forensic anthropology. And actually, me and Dr. Uldin are planning to also offer professional advancement courses related to forensic anthropology
okay.
for those who are already working in the field.
Right. So sir, ano na lang din, can you give us a bit of more context kung what a DNA laboratory would like entail para mas ma-appreciate ng um audience? Parang like does it involve like having like a clean room, like ganun ba ka sensitive yung
Yeah, definitely.
samples, or ganun like people doing the work kailangan naka PPE, ganun like full nakabalot like what we see now? Ganun po ba yun?
Definitely, definitely. So everything is well placed, well structured, there so that we don't contaminate the physical evidence. There's also certain level if it's already DNA laboratory that's working on actual cases, dapat well secured yan. There could even be securities where no one can just enter, so control yung access dun sa area na yon. Yeah, and so many protocols that should be set in place. Of course, there will be instruments that will be used in isolating the DNA, in doing polymerase chain reaction as well. Pero kami yung plano namin is just, to perform PCR and then later on, you have it, since we're just an educational institution, we will have the DNA, we will outsource the sequencing, and then once the result of the DNA sequencing returns, that's the time that our students and faculty members could be able to interpret the results. Parang ganun. So, yeah, medyo, ano nga, medyo, I hope our audience, no, they've seen some movies where, or
Mhm.
shows where, they've seen laboratory. YouTube could also be a way for you to
Mhm.
see an actual one if you can't physically go to a real one.
Okay, so gusto ko lang din idagdag a comment from the um legal counsel ng Saliksik. He said that DNA evidence is recognized in court. So I guess yun nga yung important na we really take care of the DNA samples because it is recognized um in
Uh,
court. So yeah, so down to our last question. Due to time constraints, currently how many colleges in the Philippines offer any forensic specialization?
okay, there are only two: University of the Cordilleras and the others.
Okay. Gian, may gusto bang i-dagdag? I know you mentioned earlier na very strict yung curriculum ni University of the Cordilleras. Can you have anything to add to that?
Wala na po ako sakali.
Okay, sige. Um, Yan, so again, shout out na lang to the 44 audience members that are watching us right now. You guys stayed with us for over 1 hour and 30 minutes. Yeah, and so before we wrap up our interview, I just want to read more, I know, shout outs from the audience. So from Mary Bernadette Rigacho, watching from LU. G. Rojas, great job, sir. Yes, so collaboration between researchers from different fields.
Yes.
Yes. Another comment from Jill Manapat. Wow, super interesting forensic anthropology. Yan. So John Reyes, mabuhay po kayo mga game changers. Sana lumaganap ang field na yan sa buong bansa. Malayo-layo kasing biyahe from Antipolo City patungong UC. Maraming senior high students na interesado sa field na to. Wow.
No, John, meron kami students from as far as Davao, as far of Visayas, but because they're really passionate about forensic science, they decided to fly all the way here in Baguio City, and you're all welcome. Kami in UC, we believe that education is a birthright, and even if super excellent yung mga graduates namin and ang ganda ng program, we don't have an entrance exam because we want education to be as accessible as to everyone because we are a foundation. So our University of the Cordilleras is a non-stock, non-profit institution because before our founder died, he made it a foundation, and one of his principles is that education is a birthright. And so all our policies, like whether we will employ an entrance exam or not, should be consistent or should be anchored upon that. And so even if ang tuition fee namin, like this is a very competitive school. I'm a product of that school, so I would say it, and I could testify because there are so many incredible graduates from our universities that are already well celebrated in their respective fields. We have very cheap tuition fee compared to other institutions. I think around 20,000 pesos per term. So really cheaper compared to equally ang tawag dito, good institutions. And yun nga. By the way, plug ko lang College of Law. We're the only provincial college of law that has produced two bar top natchers, top one. And that's University of the Cordillera. So Gian is in good hands when he decide to take up law in our college. Syempre, yung mga nagpo-produce ng maraming top one, di ba, is San Beda, UP Diliman, and Ateneo. So we're proud to say that aside from those schools and outside Metro Manila, we produce two
Right.
bar top natchers.
Yes,
Right.
Dr. Christian, I'm really willing to study in UC after my forensic science course. That's really my plan to do so.
Yeah, so naging ano na no, advertisement na rin ng UC. So anyway, ano na lang, so can I ask for yung mga last words na lang, you guys, for our audience? I guess we can start with Gian, and then Sir Christian give yung parang last words on tonight's interview.
So, as my last words, I mean, for these webinars, not in my entire life, uh, uh, I hope those people who watch the seminar will get inspired to take the forensic science course. Yes, like I said before, may mga hardships siya kung sakali, pero it's part of it's really a part of learning. So, tapos yung isa ko pang masasabi, yung yung pagdadala ng betterment para sa country natin it is a team effort, not an individual one. So if mas madami yung magiging future forensic science experts, mas makakamit natin yung ginugusto natin na future sa country natin, kung saan yung injustice sobrang baba na lang kung sakali. So ayun lang.
Alright, thank you very much. Ako naman, siguro i-share ko lang yung realization ko ngayong pandemic, di ba? You only live once, and yun nga, if there's something that we've proven, it's that, sometimes it's not how long you live, but how well you live. And so, in choosing a career, find something that you feel will be meaningful to you, will be meaningful to the people around you. And I guess, forensic science is something that I've chosen, something that Gian have chosen, because it's something that we feel like brings meaning to our lives, and so, and to the lives of the people around us, diba? So, at least, diba, before ako mag-exit sa Earth, I did something that brings about impact to a death, diba, in this universe, or in this world. And also, I would like to thank everyone, really everyone who stayed with us for more than 1 hour and 30 minutes. We really appreciate you guys and your interest to forensic science. The fact that you are here is something that we should already be celebrating about. I would also like to thank Saliksik team for organizing events like this, and for choosing me to be your featured researcher for the month of October. I would like to thank Angelo, Giancarlo, Angelica, Paul, Schubert, Anthony, Kaloy, and Kathleen and the rest of the Saliksik team for this great opportunity. And I commend you guys for what you do in the field of research to our country. This country needs more young people like you guys.
Wow, thank you, sir. And before we really wrap up now the interview, I'd like to invite you guys to plug anything that you want to share to the audience. Baka ikaw, Gian, you want to share something on for your student organization?
Oh yes, may I call Mom Olga Arce, our secretary, for further details.
I think she's on mute.
Yeah. Wait lang.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ayan. Good evening, everyone. Yan. So, any updates and activities are and will be posted on our Facebook page, Local Society of Forensic Science. For your inquiries about the program and the organization, you may send your messages on our Facebook page or on the email address provided. I would like to um, inform you about the upcoming webinars as part. Um, okay, so as part of our fifth lecture series, we have Dr. Matthew Go as our guest speaker, and he will be discussing an introduction about forensic anthropology on November 9, 2020. Next is on November 16, which is an introduction on forensic entomology. And our guest speaker for this webinar will be Dr. John Wallace. We still have other webinars, but the schedules are still to be announced. And for further updates, we would like to invite you to like and follow our page. Please stay tuned for a video that we will let you watch at the end of the show. Thank you so much.
Ayan. So, thank you for that, Olga. And yun nga, as previously mentioned no, by Sir Christian, they will have a webinar on forensic science and yung study of insects. So if you were able to hear that no interview, they will have a webinar about it. So ikaw, Sir Christian, do you have anything that you want to plug? Like you mentioned earlier your YouTube account, and maybe also your research work is available for the audience to read online.
All right. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. Gio, for the opportunity to plug my YouTube channel. I have Cream Hub PH, and there's also a Facebook account for that YouTube account. So please do watch all the crazy videos and interesting videos that I uploaded there. You'll really learn a lot, and you'll be entertained as well. But also, I would like to, of course, plug the University of the Cordilleras Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science program, and also our Bachelor of Science in Criminology program. You know, Gio, there is a
Mm.
board exam for criminology. We are center of excellence in the field of criminology, and one reason is our outstanding performance in the board exam. The national passing rate for the criminology board exam is 30%. That is to say, for every
Wow.
10 graduates who take the board exam, 7 will fail and only 3 will be able to pass. But here in UC, our Bachelor of Science in Criminology graduates, upon taking their board exam, our passing rate is 99 to 100%. That is to
Wow.
say, if 100 students take the exam, rarely there's one who will fail, but most of the time no one fails. So that's the level of quality that we have in our BS Forensic Criminology program. And we use the strength, we capitalize on the strength, on what's already good about our criminology program in now creating our forensic science, BS Forensic Science program. And we want to make it excellent. That's why we have so many international linkages and linkages local and international. Including some members of the TNP Crime Lab to help us further develop the program. By the way, shout out to Lieutenant Colonel Mary Grace of the TNP Crime Laboratory who will handle trace evidence next trimester. Hello, ma'am, if you're watching. And yeah, the Locards will be happy to entertain any questions that you have about our program and help you, in your admissions as well. And you could also look at our website, the University of the Cordilleras Facebook page, and the website, which is www.uc-bcf.edu.ph. And me as well. If you could find me on Cream Hub, you could send me
Mm.
a message there. I'll be able to answer more than happy to answer your question. Thank you, Gio.
Mm. Sige. So guys, ayun na, subscribe na kayo sa crimhub .ph before magka 1 million subscribers na, tas comment kayo here before 1 million, ganun. So anyway, so yan, Christian and Sir Christian and Gian, thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing your insights with us. It was a really fun interview for today, and yeah, and very insightful, and really something that the audience enjoyed today. So to everyone still watching, thank you for staying until the very end. And of course, so that we can continue to deliver better quality content, please do fill out our evaluation form. So if you enjoyed our interview today and want to see it improve even some more, please go to the URL on your screen. And of course, remember to like, share, and follow our Facebook page and for similar events and research related information. So we've had several Saliksikat webinar series and Saliksik um, talks over the past 4 months, 3 to 4 months already. So if you're interested in what we do and want to check out more of our content, please head on to our Facebook page and watch our videos. And again, please answer our survey. The feedback that we get from you is what will really help us improve. So the event is brought to you by Saliksik, the team, and Heed and Make Sense. Um, so yeah, so a big thank you to these guys, and of course, check us out at our Facebook page, our email, and etc. So yes, so thank you to everyone who watched. See you again next month. Thank you.